So Jesus never existed, and in the video I talk about the historical Jesus through using the historical critical method, and I get these responses like, well, if he was born of a virgin, and that's the whole point of Christianity, and therefore Jesus didn't exist because that's that Jesus, and that Jesus is different from the historical Jesus, instead of that being a emphasis on the fictitious one or real or supernatural or whatever on the historical Jesus of Nazareth. I find this incredibly silly and a terribly desperate argument. Up until 1,000 years ago, what, and even after, which kings and Caesars and stuff did not have supernatural? I mean, Buddha didn't exist, Muhammad didn't exist, and Moses didn't exist, the Baha'i, the Bab, Ahihula, Zoroaster, all the kings of India, all the Caesars of Rome, Alexander the Great. None of these people existed because there were signs and omens and supernatural events that happened, around their birth and death and all this kind of stuff. And things were embellished. This propaganda. I mean, under Rome had incredible propaganda. But they couldn't have existed. I mean, the emperors of China, none of them existed because, there was all that Taoist, Confucian, Chinese fortune telling, and Buddhist, stuff there. That was in the culture that surrounded these birth. It wasn't that, Matthew was making a point that Christ was, the new Moses. It wasn't the point that Mary was, in Luke, Mary, the Virgin Mary Maria, was the Ark of the Covenant and the second Eve. No, these aren't points to be made for the Christian thing. And who is Christianity? Christianity says the Bible's infallible, and Christianity believes in this Jesus. No, there's the church, which there are only 4 ancient churches left, and then there's all these people that go by sola scriptura. The Bible was never considered dictation, nor was it considered the infallible word of God. That was the Logos, which was Christ. But who is this? Christianity says that this Jesus, or they believe in this Jesus. No, they don't. I mean, most Western, even modern American evangelicals don't. Just don't. And they don't take him literally. I mean, for most Christianity and for all of church history, and even most Christianity today, rejects creationism. But the modern American will take these weird mythical passages literally, and then they will go to the words of Christ where he said, "This is my body and blood," or when the apostles say you must be baptized, baptism is salvation. They ignore that and don't take that, quote unquote, literally. So who is the Christians, and who is Christianity says? Because it's the church. And is it the Assyrian? Is it the Oriental? Is it the Eastern Orthodox? Is it the Roman Catholic? Is it the Lutheran? Is it the Anglican? Or is it some modern sect that really has no grasp or roots of historic Christianity? I'm wondering. Because we can go back to Clement of Alexandria and Origen and Basil the Great, and they mock creationism, and they accept. I mean, the early church fathers readily accepted that yes, there were some things that were metaphor or parable or what we would call exaggerated or fabricated to make a point. Most of these Gospels in the New Testament were meant to convey a message, not to give you exact detail of his life. I mean, there's Mark. Yeah, Mark is really damn close, but John, Matthew, Luke all have their agendas, and they're unashamed about it. They're unabashed about it. So this argument, well, if he wasn't born a virgin, then Jesus didn't exist, because we can say that because that's the Jesus that the Christians believe in. The Christians. Do all Christians believe in the virgin birth? No. Do all take that story literally? No. But you can't study the Jesus of Nazareth using the critical historical method, trying to reach the actual man, the actual historical figure that's well established, crucified under Pontius Pilate, because some religious people claim that, or these gospels claim this about him, this miraculous thing. Therefore, scholarship can go out the window, and that us scholars and historians can't ever attempt to reach the historical Jesus and say, yes, a historical Jesus did exist, and that these things grew up afterwards. I find this absurd. This is not a intelligent argument. This is not something that a scholar or a historian would say. We expect myths and legends to grow up around people who are adored and, quite frankly, worshipped. Yes, that Jesus that was said to be born of a virgin existed. Was he born of a virgin? I don't want to get into a pissing match of faith with people, but did he walk on water? That kind of stuff. Well, we know certain things about him, like pretty much what he taught, and how he died and who killed him and by what mechanism. The Romans and crucifixion.